This is Blind Like Me.
Hello, everyone.
Interviews, information, and reviews related to living with a vision disability. Your host is Tim Black. Tim has been visually impaired since birth. He's been in radio for 30 years and also hosts the podcast Inside Today's Country. Tim has never let his lack of vision stand in his way.
Well, welcome to another edition of Blind Like Me. My name's Tim Black, and it's always interesting where we find people to talk. And you know that this podcast, we like to connect visually impaired and blind with each other and find out stories about what we've been going through and what other people have been going through. And I came across this gentleman on TikTok. It seems like everybody seems to be on there right now. And I saw this guy working with wood, and he's totally blind. And then I saw another video where he's cooking and cutting up carrots and showing us how to use a knife properly so you don't cut your fingers. It's called Cooking with the Lights Off, both on his account on TikTok, and he's called himself the Blind Woodsman.
John Furniss is a blind woodworker. He creates all his pieces completely by touch and uses special measuring tools made for the blind. He creates colorful and intricate pieces on the lathe. John has been blind since age 16.
These are some of my favorite pieces, and they all started as an image in my mind, and then I put them together to what you see now.
Welcome, John Furniss, to Blind Like Me this week. Welcome, my friend.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. I love it.
This is really cool. I mean, to find your stuff, John, on TikTok. I mean, obviously this is like the newest thing, and I know your lovely wife Annie helps you do all this stuff.
Yes.
But man, to get yourself on TikTok and then get the followers, that must be pretty exciting for yourself.
It's been really exciting. It's kind of funny. A lot of people they think of TikTok as just TikTok. It's just some dumb fad or whatever. But TikTok has been an amazing resource for us. We've been able to get our message out there to people literally all around the world, and it's been great because I like to try and inspire people as much as possible, and I like to educate people about blindness and disabilities and those kinds of things. And it's allowed me to do that in a huge way. It's really been incredible.
Well, let's go back now and talk about your blindness. It started when you were 16 years old, and walk me through how this all happened.
Okay. Well, I became blind at 16 due to a suicide attempt. I shot myself, and it luckily only took my vision and sense of smell, or my sight and sense of smell. I like to say that I still have my vision very clearly. And it started a pretty intense period in my life, and I struggled with a lot of depression and drug addiction for the next several years. And I kind of approached blindness almost as a challenge, because as a teenager, I wanted to be as normal as I possibly could, and being blind wasn't necessarily normal. And so I tried to excel and just keep doing everything I wanted to do.
Now, your blindness due to your suicide attempt caused some nerve damage. Is that correct in your eyes? So your eyes actually look closed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It caused a little bit of nerve and muscle damage to the nerves that control the movement of my eyelids and the movement of my eyes themselves.
Okay.
But it's been kind of a good thing having them closed, honestly. There's been many times I've gotten a scratched eyelid instead of a scratched eyeball.
Oh, well, good so there's a positive out of that then.
Yeah, there's
Very good.
Silver lining.
So tell me a little bit about how you started your journey then. Obviously, you lost your eyesight. You wanted to, continue to be a normal teenager into an adult stage. How did it all, start to unfold and unwind for you?
Well, I continued to go to public school, which I'm really glad about. I was able to still be around my friends and be with my peers. And I think that was really important and helped me to be able to press forward and to be able to just say, okay, I'm going to do everything I want to do, because I was still in that same place. And that helped a lot. Also, there was the teacher at the high school for the blind was very good. Her and I, she was a strict rule follower and I was not, and so we kind of butt heads a lot. But really, I wouldn't have gotten as far as quickly as I did without her.
Right. Okay. Where did the
Yeah.
love of woodworking come in?
Well, I've always enjoyed working with my hands, and
Okay.
that's to tell the truth, it's something that has actually been a little bit of a stumbling block for me as a blind person because
Right.
I don't really have much in the way of computer skills at all, but I'm a craftsman. I'm a woodworker. I'm a mechanic. I work on, cars and small engines. I like to bake and those kind of things. And there's just not many people willing to hire a blind person to do that for,
No.
liability purposes. I get it, but
Uh-huh.
it still was really a stumbling block for me. But I I got into woodworking when I was, let's see here, about 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I had gotten in trouble when I was 19 with the law. And I ended up on probation and really that was kind of bad. I went through some pretty tough times there.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved in with my parents towards the end of my probation, and that's how I was able to truly get off drugs. And I was able to get off probation. And then I decided I wanted to find a job. And there was a school for the blind in Salt Lake City. And it wasn't an academic school, so to speak. It was, think of it more like an independent living training center.
Right.
And one of the things that they had available there was a wood shop. And I thought they were kind of crazy, but I've always been adventurous and decided I wanted to give it a try because I've always liked that kind of thing too. And I found my one thing. I found my calling. I'm better at woodworking than anything else I've ever tried.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge turning point in my life. I mean, just it gave me a direction. It allowed me to find what I really do best and what I can take myself through the world with. And I ended up becoming very close friends with the woodshop teacher, Chris Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me so many things.
Mm-hmm. Were you scared the first time that you the passion for it, but getting up there to the saws and the lathes and all those things like that? I mean, for your teacher, table saws and things like that must have just scared you.
Oh, yes. The table saw, for the first few years I was woodworking, I'd break into a cold sweat when I knew I had to use that table saw. But the thing of it is, the table saw is where most projects start. That's
right.
Where and so it was a thing of I had to overcome my fear and be able to just do it. And I have, I still don't like using the table saw, but I am very safe when I do, and I am very accurate in setting it up and the way I make my cuts. Luckily, as a lathe worker, I don't have to work with very long pieces.
Okay.
So I was able to get myself what's called a sliding miter saw.
Right.
And with that, it slides far enough. I don't really ever have to use my table saw anymore. So that's nice. And I can clamp the wood down to the table,
right.
And I never have to have my hands anywhere near the saw.
Wow. So you go and you learn this, I mean, it's a trade. You learn this trade of being a woodworker. And what happened afterwards? I mean, obviously you were trying to do this to find a job, and we all know that it's difficult for people who are visually impaired and blind, to find gainful employment. So what happened for you?
Well, for a few years after that, my friend that was the woodshop teacher, he had retired not long after I had started going to the school, just a few months. And I was working pretty heavily on a project, and they were having a hard time finding me work. So basically I decided to stop looking for employment, and I was living with my folks, and I started learning the finer details of woodworking while I was hanging out with my friend.
Okay.
So for several years, I really honed my skills to just, really, he was somebody that he didn't allow you to just, go halfway. He wanted to make sure you did high quality work. And
Right.
that's good. I mean, it's reflected in what I do now for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few years, of course, I was getting kind of restless. And he told me about a school that was in Vancouver, Washington. And it's a technical school for tuning and repairing pianos.
Okay.
And it sounded like it was right up my alley, because most of repairing a piano, most of the piano is wood, leather, or felt.
Mm-hmm.
So most repairs on a piano are fine-tuned woodworking, more or less.
Okay.
So I came up here to Washington, and I attended the school for 2 years. And during the school, I found that I wasn't necessarily the greatest tuner, but I am a great mechanic. And so I started working with a gentleman named Rick Patton, who was the guy that did the major rebuilds for the school. And he taught me how to, basically completely rebuild a whole piano, put new strings, new hammers, all the parts in the moving parts and everything called the action. And I did that for a couple of years. And I met my wonderful wife, Annie, while I was attending that school.
Right.
She was an artist that was painting a piano for a fundraiser that they do every year.
Okay.
And she happened to be painting the piano in the same workroom that I was repairing a piano.
Okay.
So we got to talking, and we hit it off, and the rest is history.
John, what an amazing story. We're hanging out with John Furniss, the Blind Woodsman. I love the name of that. I think that's so cool. Let's talk a little bit about you do some amazing work now, and I've only seen some stuff that I've seen on TikTok and a little bit that I've seen on your website as well. But have you ever now? I'm going to ask this question because obviously I'm visually impaired as well, but have you seen your work with your hands? Do you know what you're making?
I do. I very much do. I have a very, very vivid visual imagination. And so it's like I have a computer design program in my mind. I can see it right in front of me. I put it together. I take it apart. I add colors. I change the design. So I see it before it's done. I see the completed project before it's even done.
Okay.
And I have a condition called Charles Bonnet syndrome.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
Never heard of that. What's that now?
Okay. So what it is people that have had vision and become blind, they see pictures or geometric shapes or images that are just, it's really considered a hallucination.
Okay.
And there's no auditory thing that goes along with it or any kind of mental disorder in any way. It's just your brain is, call it keeping itself occupied.
Okay.
And mine is I'm able to control it in that I'm able to lay images over it and see them just as clearly as anything. And so it's been actually a very beneficial thing for me. At first it was very hard because there's no way to get away from it. I can't close my eyes or anything. It's just always there, and it's my entire field of vision, so to speak. And it's there's colors and shapes and everything, and they move constantly. So that was hard to get used to sleep and those kinds of things. But I've turned it to my advantage.
That's amazing. And as I say, I guess one of the first things I ever saw from what I watched for you online is an amazing table that you made.
Oh yeah, that I call that the crown jewel of my portfolio.
Wow, that's cool. Now you have a website, obviously. What's your website title?
It's called theblindwoodsman.com.
All right, and you're selling stuff, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, you can buy things there, and you can also access all of my social media from there. I've got Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Now, where are you selling your goods to? Like, who's buying them?
All over the country, to tell the truth.
Really?
We sold, yeah, Maine, Massachusetts, New York, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Texas,
Now, are people just
Montana,
asking?
Colorado,
Are people just
everywhere.
asking you to build stuff, or do you have like a, how does it
There,
work?
there are some people that do request commissions, but I don't really like to do commissions. It's
Right.
very, very rare that I'll do a commission. I would rather just make the things I make. And honestly, I usually make the kind of things that people request as a commission anyway. So
Okay,
if
that's
you
cool.
just keep an eye on my website, more likely than not, what you want will come along.
Nice. Now you've gone from being a mechanic, a woodworker, and now you're baking as well. And I got to say, John, you bake some amazing stuff. There was a pie. What was it? A banana cream pie that I saw the other day. That was amazing. Where did the love of baking come from?
Well, that came from very young, actually. When I was growing up, my mom would bake bread a lot for us.
Okay.
And I remember sitting on the counter watching her bake bread when I was growing up. And
Hmm.
so that gave me an interest in it. And so early on, I liked to bake brownies and cookies. And
Uh-huh.
then I started to bake bread. And that actually, I didn't really start baking bread a lot until after I was blind.
Okay.
And I just found I love it. It's another one of those things that I have kind of a knack for it.
Hmm.
And so and I had always joked about doing a cooking show called Cooking with the Lights Out. And because that's just my sense of humor. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
that's
tell
awesome.
blind
No,
jokes and
that's
stuff.
awesome. If we can't laugh at it sometimes, it's not worth it,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So Annie and I, with our TikTok account, we decided that we wanted to start doing Cooking with the Lights Out. And
Mhm.
it has been so fun. We've done several of them,
Yeah.
pot pie and several pies. We did a mixed berry rhubarb crumble yesterday.
I saw that one. That looked real. You were peeling rhubarb. That was
Mhm.
amazing.
Thank you. It was good too. It is good.
Okay, well now you've got my tummy grumbling. I'm gonna have to come for a visit one day.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
you have an amazing outlook on life. So many people who are visually impaired and blind, when you lose your sight, they feel that the door closes on them and the opportunities aren't
Yeah.
there to do what they want to do. What's your
Mhm.
message for anybody who is losing their sight or has lost their sight and is going through that right now and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life? What's your advice?
I would say my message is, if you can't do it one way, you can find another way. That's what I've found in my journey with blindness. It might take a bit longer than it would otherwise. It might be a little bit more complicated, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, most people are willing to help you, and most people are willing to genuinely help you and not just cheat you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also found that I can rely on my fellow people in society,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and really just try and find something that interests you. Something that I really enjoyed right off the start was sculpting with clay. I think that also helped me hone my, oh, how can I put this? My mind eye hand coordination
Sure.
instead
Okay.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
hand eye
Yeah.
coordination.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that also helped me to be able to form a 3D picture of the world in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So really, just don't give up hope. Even little tiny goals, set yourself little tiny goals. Like, I don't know, like, teach yourself how to clean the countertop.
Mm-hmm.
Educate yourself with the adaptive technology on your smartphone, which most people have anymore, which has completely opened up my entire world.
I was going to ask you about that actually, because you have made comment. I saw you made comment about that the the iPhone has changed your life.
Absolutely has. I really don't have much computer skills. I've tried the like JAWS and the other kind of adaptive programs, but I just, for some reason, I just don't really get it.
Yeah.
But with the way that the iPhone is mated to the speech technology, it really couldn't be better. I mean, your finger has taken the job of the mouse cursor. So you can go anywhere. And with JAWS and the other speech programs, there's a lot of times on the internet in particular that there is not a key command to access a particular pop-up window or text field that will allow you to complete making an order, for instance, or to do what you want to do. And that always threw up a brick wall for me. But now the way that the iPhone software is designed, speech over, it's just like having a mouse. It's absolutely incredible, and it's totally opened up my whole world.
How much does Annie help you?
She helps me quite a bit, really. She does all the social media. I mean, without her, no one would know who I was, really, because you'd be getting pictures of my nose hairs instead of my projects, probably.
Well, thank her for that.
Yeah. And also she was the one when I started to lose interest in rebuilding pianos, because I am a really creative person. I like things to change. And with pianos, once you've learned all the ins and outs, it's all the same thing, in and out, over and over and over again. They're all more or less the same 10 to 11,000 parts. And I got very burnt out on it. And so I closed down my business doing that. And I was trying to figure out what to do. And I have always wanted to be a professional woodworker. And in Salt Lake City, there's not enough of a market for it. And up here, there is. So I was able, because I was up here and because Annie encouraged me and bought me my lathe for a birthday present, to be able to follow my dreams and become a professional woodworker. So she has been a major part of my inspiration.
That's wild. You guys are amazing together. I got to ask you the one thing though. How do you measure stuff?
I have what's called a Roto Mattock. I wish I had remembered to grab it from the shop. It's really a simple tool.
Okay.
It's basically a threaded rod, and it's very precisely threaded, and you've got it's flat. It's machined so that it's flattened out on the top and bottom, and on the top of it, it has a raised tab every half inch.
Okay.
And then there's a large rectangular shaped nut with another lock nut that goes up and down the threaded rod, and each full turn of that nut is 1/16 of an inch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the nut itself is also designed to be easily quick measure. So it's 1 inch wide, 5/8 of an inch tall, and 1/4 inch thick, so that you can do like quick measurements.
Wow.
And I am more accurate with that thing than anything I ever used when I could see. I've literally made cuts accurate to a 32nd of an inch on the table saw.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Wow.
Something I'd like to add, my wife Annie is also a very skilled artist. She's a painter, fiber artist. She was a photographer for quite a while. I have to throw that in there too.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Very skilled.
That you can see on your TikTok. You guys have showed some of her paintings, I think. Yeah. Very cool. John, thanks very much for spending some time with us. Let's get your website one more time for me.
Yes, it's theblindwoodsman.com.
Excellent. Very simple. You can find all of John's stuff there, all your social media, and take a look at some of the wood that you're doing there. It's absolutely amazing. John, you're somebody that I think a lot of young people should look up to, especially if they are starting to lose their vision or going through challenges right now. You've certainly gone through a lot of challenges in your life and have turned that into a silver lining, and I commend you for that.
Thank you very much. I love to share my message as much as I possibly can to both give encouragement to people that are blind or going blind, and to also educate the world about how blind and disabled people, we're not broken. We're just people with challenges. Mm-hmm. I like to say that I was given the gift of blindness so that I can help other people.
John, we'll leave it right there. Thanks very much for spending some time with us on Blind Like Me.
You're welcome. Have a good day, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Blind Like Me. If you have a comment or suggestion about future casts, drop us an email to blindlikeme@outlook.com. Blind Like Me is a TimBlackOnAir.com production.